Months in preparation. Millions of dollars in military hardware. Combined training with the forces of the United States. Truth Duty Valour goes to North Carolina to follow the Canadian forces as a grand experiment unfolds. History in the making. Not since Normandy have Canadian troops waded ashore in a true amphibious operation. Peacekeeping, peacemaking, humanitarian aid, natural disasters, even war. The last decade has seen the Canadian forces tested like never before. The new realities of the world we live in have been the catalyst for the creation of a new capability. The Standing Contingency Force, known as the SCF. The SCF is known also as Joint Operations or Joint Ops, combining the best capabilities of the Navy, Air Force, and Army. This new force is designed to provide Canada with the ability to project military power, a unique capability that can be sent literally anywhere in the world.
I'm in command of all of the assets, naval, sea, land, air, U.S., Canadian, that are all participating in this integrated tactical effects experiment, we're calling it, down here in the littoral waters or coastal waters of North Carolina, right off of Camp Lejeune.
The Canadian military acronym for this training is known as ITEE, which stands for Integrated Tactical Effects Experiment. To non-military folks, this is more commonly known as amphibious operations, the ability to deliver troops, equipment, and even aircraft from sea onto land, virtually anywhere. This is complicated work and often very dangerous, which is why Canada has turned to the experts for help. The U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps have been successfully executing amphibious operations around the world for over half a century. To them, this is almost an art form. But then again, they get a lot of practice. On average, the Marines get called about 6 times a year to conduct amphibious ops somewhere in the world, often in some of the most contentious and dangerous locations on the planet. They are the best. Their mentoring is key to Canada's success.
We're in the crawl before you walk, before you run stage over the next couple of days. We're going through a lot of fundamental basic training, making sure that the land forces and the Navy forces understand what each other's all about. So the next couple of days, practice driving vehicles on and off landing craft in and out of the well deck of the ship here, and working the beach. But once again, it'll be a very slow build-up, culminating next week at the beaches in North Carolina.
This experiment will bring together elements from all 3 branches of the Canadian military: Navy, Army, and Air Force. It's designed to test the feasibility of Canada acquiring its own Marine Amphibious Unit, or MAU. This is joint operations at its best.
We haven't, Canadian Navy haven't had these combat skills since World War II, really, and we're putting them back in place in the interest of the SCF. And what I've done over the last few weeks is draw together a group of sailors, which I've embedded in the American elements on almost a one-to-one basis in some cases, to understudy the American experts and the specialists as they go through the various phases of projecting government will from the sea.
Welcome to CFB Halifax, one of the largest bases in the Canadian Forces. It is here that training for the deployment of the MAU will first occur. U.S. Navy and Marine Corps personnel and ships have come to Halifax to help mentor and train. Everyone has to pay attention. This is critical training. Mistakes could cost lives.
What's going to go over now is landing procedures and well procedures and some safety involved in that. OK, ce qu'ils vont faire, ils vont nous parler des procédures d'embarquement, de la manière de le faire, puis des sécurités pour tout.
This is Shearwater, which is part of CFB Halifax. It is here that the first stages of training occur.
This beach is mine. That's our motto of our command.
One of the key jobs is that of the beachmaster. He is the one in charge. All ranks, including the Commodore, must follow the orders of the beachmaster during a landing. U.S. Navy Master Chief John Elkins has been given the task to mentor his Canadian counterpart, Sergeant Paul Albertson.
I'm a beach party team commander, and my function is to control and operate the entire beach for salvage and onload and offload of all the Canadian Army vehicles and equipment, and salvage of the landing crafts.
My job is to enable combat power to be projected on a beach. Through the Naval Beach Party, we'll facilitate the movement of combat power by offloading from the large ship, in this case the U.S.S. Gunston hull, to a smaller ship called a landing craft utility, from which vehicles from the land force will deploy and project their combat power to a foreign shore.
Months of planning have taken place. The ships are ready. The helicopters have been dramatically modified, and the Army has moved their men and vehicles to Halifax in preparation for the first stage of seaborne training. This is where the learning curve is steepest.
First, the LCU should be here around 1400.
The LCU va arriver ici vers 14h.
We will form two lines.
To make it a little more challenging for the American mentors, the Army has sent a French-speaking unit from the Royal 22nd Regiment out of Valcartier, Quebec. The proud Vendus are well known for their ferocity in battle and zest for professionalism. They may be experts on land, but the coming week at sea will be a new test for them all.
Pour nous, notre présence ici, la compagnie, ça va être on va être la troupe qui va débarquer au sol lors de l'exercice de la FOPC. Donc, ma compagnie est la composante principale de l'élément terrestre qui va débarquer. Par la suite, une fois débarqué, c'est faire notre travail comme à l'habitude. Pour nous, aller frapper une cache d'armes, c'est pas quelque chose de nouveau, c'est pas quelque chose qui sort de l'ordinaire. C'est le genre de mission qu'on est habitué à faire. C'est toujours un défi de les faire, ces missions-là. C'est toujours des choses qui sont quand même assez complexes, mais c'est pas nouveau. Ce qui est nouveau pour nous autres ici maintenant, c'est vraiment la vie à bord du navire qu'on va devoir vivre. C'est aussi toute la partie qui va nous prendre du navire, qui va nous embarquer dans des péniches de débarquement puis qui va nous amener sur la plage. C'est vraiment ça qui va être une nouvelle expérience pour nous autres, qui va être un peu ce qu'on veut voir dans l'entraînement ici, ce qu'on veut retirer de bénéfices dans cet entraînement.
The week is one of trials, tribulations, and often laughter for everyone.
And that's where training your crew comes in, that they all work and meld together. You know, and these guys are a little rough, a little rusty because we haven't done it in so long. So give them about a day and they'll be good to go.
Now with the crawl stage completed, the U.S.S. Gunston hull weighs anchor and heads out to sea to join the rest of the task force. Military personnel are all trained in the use of explosives, but the men and women of our joint ops are about to experience a different kind of bomb, one that can only be concocted by Mother Nature, a Cape Hatteras bomb. The task force that makes up this experimental amphibious operation is composed of some of the most effective naval forces in the world. The U.S.S. Gunston Hall is a specially designed dock landing ship capable of delivering troops and supplies ashore. Protecting her from threats both above and below the surface are Canadian and American warships. The U.S.S. Doyle is a multi-purpose guided missile frigate, one of 50 such class ships built by the U.S. Navy. The Canadian destroyer HMCS Athabaskan is the command and control ship, able to coordinate all the functions of this task group. Iroquois class destroyer, length 129.8 meters, beam 15.2 meters, displacement 5,100 tons, speed 29 plus knots. Weapons, missiles, torpedoes, 76mm super rapid gun, 20mm phalanx, close-in weapon system. Launched in 1970, the Athabaskan was fully updated in the 90s with the latest in electronics and weapons systems. She saw action as the flagship for Canada's Naval Task Group in Operation Desert Storm, the campaign to liberate Kuwait. The Canadian frigate HMCS Halifax is also sailing to North Carolina. Like the U.S.S. Doyle, the Halifax can provide flexible multi-threat protection for the force. The supply ship, HMCS Preserver, is there to refuel the task group and provide additional supplies. On board the Gunston Hall are members of the Royal 22nd, the Vandues, who make up the land attacking force. 5 Sea King helicopters are on board the Canadian ships to provide airlift capability. An Aurora CP-140 aircraft will join the group in North Carolina to provide aerial reconnaissance. This truly is a joint effort. The plan is to sail from Halifax, eventually coming offshore off North Carolina, home of Camp Lejeune, where the United States Marine Corps have one of their largest bases. The Marines have an excellent training facility here. The camp's 600 square miles includes a base for 60,000 troops, land and sea firing ranges, forest, coastal regions, everything you need for practicing amphibious operations. This is the perfect place to train, and for the task force, it seems like a simple and perfect plan.
After sailing from Halifax on the 7th of November, we ran into what is commonly known as the Cape Hatteras bomb. 2 load systems that came together. The load deepened rapidly, and we found ourselves in one heck of a storm. In fact, one of the ships in my task group, HMCS Athabaskan, as you will recall, was detached on a search and rescue and went out and rescued 3 Canadians from a sailing vessel in distress. Here in the U.S.S. Gunston Hall, with seas up around 24 feet, many of the non-sailors, if I could say that, in my staff, were acutely affected by the weather, and so now they have a whole new appreciation of some of the challenges associated with operations at sea.
As the swell of the sea increases and the waves get larger and larger, many are confined to their bunks. At first, you feel nauseous and listless. Then you might actually turn a little green. Then the vomiting starts, sometimes even violently, and unlike a hangover, the vomiting doesn't stop. Seasickness is one of the worst feelings in the world. Sometimes the only cure is getting back on dry land.
Les défis ici, je pense que ça va être le manque d'espace, puis savoir si j'ai le pied marin, parce que je suis pas tout à fait sûr d'être un très bon marin.
Et aussi, la seule chose nouvelle qui est en gros pour nous, l'armée, c'est vivre sur un bateau. C'est ça le gros qui est nouveau. C'est pas vraiment un défi. Le seul défi qui peut être, c'est ceux qui ont le mal de mer. Mais il n'y a rien de gros défi là-dedans. C'est le vivre à bord d'un bateau et de s'en venir à terre. Le reste du travail, c'est notre travail normal qu'on est habitué à faire avant le quartier.
My stomach's much better now that we're on land. Nothing's moving under my feet. You know, I'm not kind of wavy and walking sideways. Yeah, I'm pretty happy to be back on land. That's where I'm from.
For sure, being on a ship for 8 or 9 days is not necessarily the ideal environment for an infantry soldiers. Like we joined the infantry because we like going in the field and having a lot of lot of space to do our job. So being on a ship was pretty much difficult for most of my soldiers.
Infantry on landing craft. It's not always calm sailing. The Canadian infantry who went ashore at Normandy had a few rough nights themselves back in June of 1944. That was the last time the Canadians went ashore in strength for an amphibious landing. Seasickness and the pummeling from a heaving deck are just some of the punishments soldiers can expect at sea. It can be worse, but the hope is they will wade ashore soon.
Very excited. It's going to be a good challenge, like a D-Day in Normandy. Very like to do this.
The real objective here is to test a concept, the viability of a concept of a new, rapidly deployable seaborne, sea-based task force for Canada that would have the ability to go anywhere in the world, into those hot spots, those failed and failing states, those areas where Canadian national interests would be affected, either in a humanitarian assistance role, a disaster response, or in a place where combat power would have to be applied, most probably in partnership with our allies, to deal with an insurgency, to deal with terrorism, to deal with breakdowns in governance, to deal with providing relief and confidence to those people who are being disenfranchised by governments or failed governments.
This has been a long time coming. The excitement's welling up in all of us. We want to see this come to fruition and actually get to it. It's been a long time coming in the planning phase. So now the practical aspects are coming more into play, and everybody's quite excited with the big step forward.
I'm excited. I can't wait to get down to the actual real thing. Get down to the actual high tides and high sea states, heavy winds, and a lot of things going on, you know, people going back and forth. And I think the diversity is what I really like as well.
The difficult transit is over. The USS Gunston Hall lies at anchor off the shores of North Carolina. There is only a gentle swell on the sea, for now. Next, we head down into the heart of the ship, the well deck. Here, we will see the business end of the Gunston Hall, where sailors have to hang on to 200 tons of bucking LCU. This is organized chaos at its best, and unquestionably the most challenging and dangerous training for our young soldiers and sailors.
Yeah, Gunston Hall is the 4th Whidbey Island class dock landing ship. We measure 609 feet long, we're 84 feet wide, and we draw about 19.5 feet. And we weigh or draft about 15,000 long tons. Our purpose in life is power projection ashore. We carry an array of landing craft. The ones we're working with in this operation are landing craft utilities. They can carry up to 400 troops. They're very slow, heavy lift, lighterage. They only move about 11 knots maximum. So it's a little bit slow going, but you got that heavy lift capability. We can carry 3 of those in the well deck.
Right now we're down in the well deck of the ship. This is where your amphibious operations takes place. This is really the heartbeat of the ship. The well deck's 440 feet long, 50 feet wide, and as you see behind us, we have 2 LCUs. We can work hovercraft. Basically, we have very different variations. We can work really anything that we need to. What we do with 2 craft in the well, we have to raise the water barrier, bring it up, and that keeps the forward vehicles from getting wet with salt water. And we ballast to what's called a steep wedge to 8 feet on the stern, and that lets the aft craft exit the well. So we launch the first LCU at 8 feet, and then the DCA, which runs ballast control, he starts moving water forward to give us at least 4 feet forward and try to get 8 feet on the craft's stern, so then we can start
floating the craft up, and we start working them toward the stern of the ship. So I have approximately 32 kids at work. We have 4-inch lines, and that's how we handle these craft. We have 16 lines per craft, and these craft, approximately 200 ton, my young sailors have to work the lines to keep the craft centered in the well deck, try to keep them from crashing into the bulkheads, and basically try to keep the craft themselves safe so there's no further damage sustained from the seas.
A major adaptation for the Canadian Air Force was the need to configure the Sea King helicopter to be able to carry troops for the insertions ashore. Their normal role is anti-submarine warfare, so that equipment had to be taken out of them to fulfill the role of troop carrier. Length, 16.67 meters. Wingspan, 18.9 meters. Cruising speed, 155 kilometers an hour. Maximum speed, 181 kilometers per hour. Ceiling, 3,048 meters. Range, 450 kilometers. Crew, 4.
Down here, we're doing what I would call a radical departure from our typical operation. So we're practicing amphibious operations. So we're going to be doing inserting of troops, ground troops, from the ship onto the beach. So by a boat and by Sea King as well.
To get the Sea King ready for this mission, we had to take all the sonar equipment out of it. Originally, it was designed for anti-submarine warfare, tracking, finding submarines, things like that. We had to take all of that gear out of it. We had to add several additional crew seats to it. Basically, we've cleaned up the inside so that the infantry doesn't have anything they can trip on. We've really streamlined and lightened up the aircraft.
So far, it's been going very well. We had a few challenges on the way down here with weather and equipment, but now the sun's come out and the equipment's all behaving and the troops are doing very well. The insertions are going very well, and the whole battle rhythm is going extremely well.
Power projection from the sea. It is a capability Canada has sorely needed for a long time. Somalia, East Timor, and even the recent evacuation of Canadians from Lebanon have defined this deficiency. Many NATO countries have long recognized the importance of this capability. Great Britain, Spain, Italy, even Australia has an amphibious force, ready to move anywhere in the world. Is it realistic for Canada to desire this? Planners and experts alike agree that it is both realistic and necessary. The time is right. So what would this force look like, and what type of ships does Canada need? The Canadian Navy's supply ships, HMCS Protector and HMCS Preserver, have been workhorses in supplying the Navy at sea, but they are now at the end of their lifespans. The new ships on the horizon are the Joint Support Ships, or JSS. These ships will be able to do even more than supplying the Navy at sea. They'll also be able to support amphibious operations. They'll be able to get in close to shore. The JSS will be able to carry supplies, troops, helicopters, and vehicles to allow Canada to be able to truly project her power ashore. The crawl stage is over. The next phase of the experiment is the true reality for all, moving of soldiers and equipment from the ships to the beach. Tomorrow is the dry rehearsal for the big operation. This is the slow time training. It is tedious and often painfully slow, but it's necessary. It's one of the biggest tests yet for our young soldiers from Valcartier. This is where the real danger lies. A simple mistake can have grave consequences for many. This is the real danger time. When the chains come off the LAV 3s, everyone is concerned. The sailors call the soldiers crunchies, which is what will happen to the human body if the 17-ton LAV shifts or rolls in the bucking LCU. There's no room for errors. Every movement Every action is calculated and precise. It has to be. It all works to plan. The first LCUs are underway and heading towards the beach without a hitch. The amphibious experiment is now in the walk stage. During this stage, the troops will be able to practice their new skills under controlled timelines. Operating procedures will be analyzed and adapted in preparation for the final assault.
From this point forward, we deployed into the camp last night, set up. The first thing I guess you'd be able to see is the outer perimeter defense berm. Just provides very basic protection against small arms fire, possible heavy machine gun fire, and the effects of indirect weapons onto their small footprint tented area there. It's a very lavish setup for about the 14 guys that the American forces have deployed, but it's living in the lap of luxury, really, so I'm not complaining.
The surf zone, always changing with the tides. The constant challenge of shifting sands. This is where disaster can happen. People can get hurt, even die. It takes experts to land large numbers of troops and vehicles quickly and precisely. It has to all work.
Safety is a primary element in anything that we do in the United States. Personnel safety is our number one. If we have something as simple as somebody with a stubbed toe, we'll stop the operation to ensure we have safety, conduct a little bit of operational risk management to ensure it doesn't happen again, and then we'll continue on with the operation. Saving the life of one person is far greater than 1,000 military vehicles. I've done the joint task force exercises with other foreign navies. This is my first time actually operating with the Canadians. To have the opportunity to come up and train the Canadians or to mentor the Canadians in what we do and what we've been doing for so long is actually very stimulating, very exciting. It's nice to work with our counterparts and to learn what their facets of their job positions are and what our job positions are, and to kind of relate them together and then meld ourselves into one cohesive unit and then bring something to the table to say, this is what will work for us, and therefore the Canadians saying, this is what works for us as well, and we kind of piece together little parts to make something that's very effective for the Canadian Navy and Canadian Army.
Today we're going to do dry land driver training. This will be the first experience from the lab drivers to get to shore off the landing craft, and unlike Shearwater, the drivers would be presented with real-time, real-world scenarios. Vice, the driver training that took place in Canada, where they were coming up onto concrete ramps. Obviously, the terrain here is substantially different. They're going to encounter actual driving conditions, i.e. sand. One of our paramount tasks today is to get the guys conversant with coming through the surf zone. The seas are a bit more pitched up than they were in Halifax here, so they're going to have to get used to staying mounted inside their vehicles during the transit, which is going to be a bit different. That's primarily for safety. They'll come in today, and we'll validate the Canadian vehicles as they come through the sand. Obviously, our vehicles are made to transit through ice and snow, i.e. tire-wise. This is going to pose pretty significant challenges on our equipment, and hopefully we're not pulling too many out of bogged up sand. So should be a pretty good day. We'll see what the remainder of the week leads into.
For the military, training must be done over and over and over again. It's all about getting it right. Safety is a major concern, especially when new skills are being learned. The troops practice and practice, honing their skills, getting ready to face the real thing.
That's it, baby! We've been a long time on the ship, so the guys we're looking forward to get ashore and do our job. But now that we do our job, morale gets higher, and people are happy also to be able to take advantage of all the facilities the Camp Lejeune have for training. So everything is fine so far.
Once the Vandus disembark from the landing craft, it's business as usual as they race towards their objective. Today's mission is for training, a precursor to what will happen in several days. Their task, capture a terrorist training camp.
After we land, everything was approximately the same thing as normal. We got to an objective, which was a terrorist training camp. We coordinate, search it, like capture some bad guy. It was pretty much the same kind of exercise we do every day in our job. That's what we're paid for.
Un prisonnier ennemi, un blessé ami.
What was different was the landing part. Landing is not very much of a challenge for us at the infantry level because we're taken so much by the end by all the amphibious task group that does everything for us. So for us, it's just getting in the ship, in the LCU, getting ashore, and they show us the way of the beach. And then after that becomes job as usual. But it was a good feeling to land though and see our vehicles on the beach. This is something we're not used to.
To achieve maximum speed for this operation, helicopters are also used to insert ground troops to assist in the mission. This is the first time the Sea Kings are being used in their new role to transport troops. The Vandus will be the first to find out how it's all going to work.
Initially it was a little slow, but in true infantry form they've adapted very quickly and things are really starting to progress very well at the helicopter end. Over the next couple days, we're going to move into a more advanced training cycle, actually picking the infantry up, taking them on shore, dropping them off at their LZs. They'll get off, perform their mission or duty, probably camp for the night, and then the next day we'll either resupply them or we'll pick them up and bring them back to the ship.
It was great yesterday. I went ashore with one of the landing craft, and I was watching the kids in the light armored vehicles as we approached the beach, and the ramp came down, and you could see the excitement in their eyes, and they're having fun. This is good stuff, and they see it as a capability that they would enjoy being part of in the future. So I'm just loving it.
An amazing amount of work goes on behind the scenes on board the Gunston Hull. Every detail must be attended to. The preparations are intense for the final amphibious landings. Everything must be perfect, or tragedy could strike. 609 feet may seem like a lot of ship, but when you pack it with troops, equipment, vehicles, landing craft, ammunition, supplies, rations, command staff, and communications equipment, any personal space suddenly becomes a luxury. This is definitely not a cruise ship. The U.S.S. Gunston Hull is for amphibious assault landings. She is battle-ready and mission-proven.
We were tasked back in March as being part of an experiment where we were going to partner with our closest friends and allies to the north, the Canadians. They were looking to develop an amphibious capability. We were to be the platform to embark a joint staff of Canadian officers and all branches of the Canadian military, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And part of the proof of concept was them being able to plan an amphibious maneuver on a joint level and then be able to project that power ashore to take care of whatever the crisis was, and again in a low-threat environment.
As this cold front begins to approach our position.
For command staff, the detailed planning must be exact and specific. Weather and sea states must be constantly monitored. Briefings are seemingly endless. Communications is critical for everyone.
Nothing in the air today because of the wind shear, and we're looking at green right through the weekend, sir, as we have a huge ridge of high pressure building in right through until Monday.
Plans are made, changed, adapted, and then changed again. The pace of work is furious and constant. Everyone is tired. But it must be right, or disaster will welcome them ashore.
This is a complex operation to take military capability and project it from the sea. And we have to learn the skills, first of all, as individuals, then as small teams, and then as larger teams. And the biggest challenge will just to be keep calm, keep talking, everybody keep building the skills together, and to lean on your American mentor, and to say, hey, what's happening now and why? And so when we're asked to do this on our own, we've got the answer.
One answer that is already in place is the vehicle the Vandus are using in the assault. The light armored vehicle, the LAV-3, is the go-to attack transport for the Canadian Army. Battle-proven in Afghanistan, this made-in-Canada armor gets the troops to the battlefield and supplies offensive punch. The New Zealand Army also uses the LAV-3, and the Americans have a version as well.
There have been a number of challenges, but they've all been the kinds of challenges that have positive results, and that they have forced us to consider, it's forced us into some pretty significant collective team problem solving. For example, we've created an integrated staff. So we have created a staff that is air, sea, and land. And Army officers, naval officers, Air Force officers, all members of the Canadian Forces, but we've been brought up in slightly different cultures. We think slightly differently. Our languages are slightly different. And so it has been really an interesting and enjoyable challenge to get everybody onto the same page, and it didn't take that long.
This is actually very exciting for me. I know the crew's been pumped up for months to do this. Certainly there wasn't any surprises. We had the Canadians come on board, very professional. We've learned many, many different things from them, just as kind of a knowledge-sharing effort. And even though we are the mentors, so to speak, I feel like in a lot of ways there's been role reversals where we've been mentored and we've learned a lot about how we do operations, and especially more and more coalition operations. When you look at how the future of littoral warfare is going to be fought, it's going to be fought in a joint environment. So it's exciting that we're actually making history and being able to partner with the Canadian military to make this happen.
I realized from a Canadian standpoint as well as a U.S. standpoint, we can enhance our allied cooperation tenfold if the capability resides in the Canadian Armed Forces. So when the opportunity came for me to come up here, I jumped at it because I realized truly how important this is for everybody involved, not just the Canadian Armed Forces, but the U.S. Armed Forces as well, to have an ally that we can integrate in operation.
The crawling and the walking phases are over. The planning and the training are completed. It's time to run. Tomorrow is the real thing. A full amphibious assault, conducted as a real-time exercise. No more practicing. Success or failure? Has all the effort been worth it? Dawn breaks with clear skies and gentle seas. High tide dictates a late afternoon landing. The beaches have already been pre-cleared by pathfinders who were inserted covertly ashore. The final assault is underway. Just as with a real mission, the Gunston Hull finds herself surrounded by her escorts, ready to fend off any attacks from above, below, or on the sea. Attack aircraft patrol the skies. Suddenly, a fast boat races across the ocean. Is it terrorists with rocket-propelled grenades? Almost instantly, the security forces from the Athabaskan respond. The threat is quickly neutralized. This is something they all have to constantly train for. In the well deck, the landing craft are loaded. Moorings are loosened. Water is let in. Expectations run high. The troops are trained and ready. Command centers are bristling with action and the buzz of communication. On the flight deck, Sea King after Sea King lands, loads up, and heads for shore. The assault is about to begin. Everything seems to be going as planned. All of the preparations and hard work have finally come together as the first LAV 3 hits the beach. All goes to plan as the vehicles and soldiers are ferried to shore and form up for their mission inland. Known as the MOUT, this acronym stands for Military Operations on Urbanized Terrain. More commonly known as house-to-house combat, this specialized warfare discipline is critical in the war zones of Afghanistan and Iraq. Today, the Vandus will put their urban warfare skills to the test in the MOUT. They have been given the job of capturing the town. It should prove challenging. The late afternoon landing has dictated an evening attack. The Vandus cautiously advance. Snipers and booby traps can be anywhere. This is considered the most dangerous type of combat. They take it very seriously. The Vandus' training and experience shines through. They quickly traverse the urban jungle, find the bad guys, and take them out. It's all over in a matter of minutes. The good guys win. It seems almost anticlimactic given the days and nights of planning, all to reach this moment. But still, there's an immense feeling of satisfaction for these young soldiers. They've learned a lot. From seasickness to working a cramped ship, they overcame adversity. They have succeeded. Mission accomplished. This successful experiment is only the beginning. The ability to conduct an amphibious operation has shown itself to be extremely important. To be able to help around the world, to be able to rescue one's citizens from harm's way, to help those devastated by natural disasters, to join forces with other nations when called upon, and when necessary, to put a fighting force ashore.
I'm very much committed to the experiment and to the introduction of this capability into Canadian forces. It's the most exciting thing I've done in about 20 years, I gotta tell you.
It has been a tremendous experience and one of the most enjoyable and rewarding, quite sincerely, of my seagoing career.
Le feeling des gars, c'est très bon parce que c'est une nouvelle expérience. Donc, avec les bateaux, le Gunston, c'est tout du nouveau pour nous. Fait que les gars sont quand même assez excités, puis ils ont bien aimé l'expérience.
All branches of the Canadian Armed Forces, the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force came together for this experiment. Together with their American partners, they have crawled, walked, and ran with this new vision of amphibious operations for Canada.
A lot of challenges getting everything rolling. There's a lot of culture changes required. However, it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of hard work to get where we are, but now seeing the ships go ashore, seeing the helicopters load up with troops and go ashore, it's pretty cool, so I like it.
As a mentor, it was easy because the Canadian Armed Forces, very professional, very sharp bunch of individuals. So doesn't take a lot. You tell them, they understand, they pick it up, and they run with it.
Is it exciting? Oh yeah, it's definitely exciting.
I guess in parting, it's a good day to be in the Army. It's absolutely something. It's brand new ground, and I'm very happy. I'm ecstatic to be a part of it. And I'll use the line that I use with all the guys that I work with in the MAL. Me being the only Army guy right now, there's not one guy in the room that can punch a smile off my face.
One of the things we've learned and reinforced amongst all of our troops is a discipline on the beach here. People that don't have to be here aren't here. People that are come here for business have to move along as quickly as they're done their business. Are you two fellas done here?
Yes, we are.
Get off my beach.